Audience, please attend carefully. There are massive spoilers for Star Trek Picard ahead. For Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 7, Nepenthe, or Nepenthe, or Nepenthe, however you like to say it. Anyways, lots of spoilers and some speculation. If you're here for it, I hope you enjoy. Yeah, baby. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are focused on Star Trek Picard and PJ. I'm going to place your logo in the corner on this video again, like last time, which,
Yay.
which is cool. But I'm honoring
Thank you.
you by wearing something that I think you might wear, which is a beanie and a hoodie. So in a way, you're here.
Yeah.
Welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Now that we're officially recording, we can start talking about Picard. I listened to probably like 60% of your video. No, it's great. It was actually I love. Can I just say as an endorsement, I have a small audience, but if you have YouTube Plus or whatever it's called, the one that you don't get ads with, right?
Yeah.
It gives you the ability to lock your mobile device, like your phone, and then you can still listen, especially like that video. There's not a video to watch, it's mostly just to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you can still listen to the audio of the video without the YouTube app having to be in the forefront.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it's super cool. So I get to listen to you. You made my
What
traffic
was that?
better,
What
man.
what was that sound just then?
Oh,
Was it
all that noise? That was
It
that's
sounded like
like for the ASMR audience.
No,
Am I too loud?
there was a squeak or something like that. I don't know if it was a distortion in the audio or something. It was like
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know. You'll hear it back maybe. But yeah, I
Probably.
I did that like right after the episode, didn't take notes or nothing, and I was like tired and typically when I wake up Thursday mornings to watch Picard, I'm not a morning person. So I'm a little more critical of what I'm watching in the morning.
It's
But
your raw reaction. It's actually really good. You're very actually you're
it's
so
a it's
calm
an
about it.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're actually a really great commentator.
I almost come
Like if
across as
that's your
passive aggressive, I think. At some points where
maybe
I'm trying not to be too negative and I'm like, yeah, they killed that guy. That was smart of them.
you d- knowing you as I do, I feel like we haven't met in person, but knowing you as I do, some of those moments are actually quite humorous, and I chuckle along with you, and you chuckle at yourself too. So I get
Yeah.
it. Hold on a second, I'm gonna adjust something on my headphones, so I got to take them off so I won't hear you. You can keep talking to the audience though if you want to.
Hello, my name is PJ and my channel is Boatrek and I talk about Star Trek stuff.
All right, I'm back, and I can hear you.
Yay.
Whew. Technical difficulty. It's always going to be a thing on Starfleet Boy. Unfortunately, we can't escape it. So, so I don't know the conclusion of your discussion, so you'll have to share it here.
I
But
think
what
I
I
just
wanted to
fell
say is that
asleep. I just trailed off and kind of like
for real.
I actually said at one point, I'm gonna stop yammering on, and I yammered on a bit more. I'm like, I don't know
I
what I'm
love
doing.
it.
Why am I doing this?
I love it. I love it. Well, you have one. You have at least one listener, but I know you have more than just me. So keep it up. It's great stuff. Um,
Thanks.
well, we're here to talk about Star Trek Picard episode 7, Nepenthe,
Nepenthe.
and Nepenthe, Nepenthe, as as, as Jonathan Frakes said it on the Ready Room. I want to know really quickly, how much did you watch like the little next time on Picard thing that happens after the credits?
On Crave, they don't show that. I only see that on YouTube. Somebody uploads it, and
So have you seen it though?
and
You've seen
I
it?
see the clip of the next episode from Ready Room. I did see them both.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I could care less if I was spoiled for the whole season at this point. I'm just waiting for the ending. Like I want to see how this all plays out. The build up has been like very shaky for me. It's like good and bad, a little too much on the bad side. But yeah,
Ups and downs for
ups
you.
and
Emotional
downs.
roller coaster, right? Like,
It's not. I'm not having the love affair that I thought I was gonna have with the show.
are you at least enjoying my love affair with it? Just kidding.
No,
No,
yeah,
I'm not.
I'm really happy that people are like showing the love and just supporting the show. Like none of that. I'm not somebody who, if I dislike something, I get mad at people who do.
Thank
I
you.
think it's actually
I,
good because I actually do want a second season and possibly a third season. So I even told
awesome.
myself beforehand, if I'm not that into the first season, I'm still gonna watch it because next season they're gonna bring back the whole gang. Like seriously, come on, they've got to.
I'm dealing with it's kind of encouraging to hear you say that, because in my personal well, actually not even just in my personal life, but on air, I'm dealing with some struggles with that. And I took a lot of things personally that some of my guests said about Picard that I didn't agree with, that may have like been a critique or whatever. So I had to check myself before I wrecked myself and kind of have a soul search about that. So I don't know. It's a journey. It's a lot of things for a lot of people, which is partly I think one of the things I love about it, but it has nothing to do with the show directly. But yeah, I respect what you're saying. This was the first episode that challenged me in a way where I was like, I can't believe this is happening, and I started questioning some of the choices and decisions that the writers were making. But then at the same time, this is my favorite episode of of all time so far. I mean, next episode next week, in 7 days, that could change. But the scenes, and I think you said something similar on your video, which is the scenes with Riker, Troy, and Jean Luc were just like, they
Yeah,
were so good. They were just
and
like so enjoyable.
and Kestra and
And
Soji.
Kester, yeah, everything. This was like
I,
where I feel like those characters, Soji comes alive in this and goes
yeah,
further than
exactly.
Dodge did. Like, yeah, like it's different.
See, the trouble I've had with this show is the character development. For Mr. Sci-Fi, I don't know if you watch his reviews, but he totally
I try. I love him.
he
He's an amazing. What's his name? Can we give him credit?
Mark Siegfried.
Thank you. Yes, he's a wonder. I try, so I have limited time. I gotta watch your videos before his, just because I know you. But
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. But I do enjoy his videos. The ones I've seen, they're really great.
he wrote the story for Far Beyond the Stars. He also wrote the
That's
story
right.
for Next Generation. But he hit the nail on it.
And he worked with. Oh, sorry, I was gonna give him more credits.
He worked Doug
And he worked
Jones and a bunch of
Doug
other
Jones.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's called Space Command or
Space
something
Command.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. All right, there we did a good job.
No, he gets on his channel. He's like, he's a very soft spoken guy. He's like, hey, Mark Siegfried here. Like, but he hit the nail on the head when he talked about Narek and Narissa. How every scene you see with them for like a number of episodes is the same scene over and over again. Brother, did you get the secret yet? Yes, I'm pushing, but I blah blah blah. It's like the same, and they're so one dimensional. Like they speak like villains. Obviously, what they're trying to do, they believe in their minds is the right thing, but they're acting like snide, can't be Batman '60s style like villains. Like she might as well be Eartha Kitt the way she talks. You know what I mean? But and here's the thing with Soji, she's been pretty dull. When she's with Narek, don't find that interesting. But episode 4, uh, you know, when they have that little skating thing, a lot of people think that's
Oh
stupid.
yeah.
I actually really like that, and I love the score behind it. And I started caring about her there, and then she wasn't in episode 5. Episode 6, uh, when she's figuring out everything. Didn't really care for her in that episode, but this episode is like the first one where I'm like, man, I really care about Soji. I want her to survive and not become evil, because I always like thought at the end like she's gonna turn bad, because that's what they're saying is gonna happen. So, but man, I don't want that
That
to happen
makes
now. And if it ends on a sour note, or
well, I
uh,
mean, this episode kind of gives us the danger that that could happen. I like what you said. It also made me think about like one of the reasons I started liking Soji earlier, and I sort of did this thing because I fell in love with Daj immediately. Like she really impressed, and it's funny because it's the same performer. It's both Issa Briones, so it's kind of a cool thing. But for me personally, Daj, I was like immediately endeared to her, and like uh no pun intended, her time on screen was explosive. You know, like she like literally you know, dies in the first episode and everything, the character. But one of the things that was really impactful to me, which I saw in this episode as a contrast to the previous episode, was that Daj, for whatever reason, immediately trusts Jean-Luc. She's like, it's almost like she was programmed to do so, or maybe I don't, you know,
yeah,
maybe the show is going to reveal that, but Soji is definitely not the same way. And Ruben, my friend Ruben, pointed out that she doesn't even get the flat. Like he's like, why didn't she see Picard when her life was in danger, like Daj did? And at first I was trying to like, you know, really defend it, and I was like, oh, she probably did. They just chose not to show it on camera, but maybe she didn't. Like maybe the way she was designed was different from Daj. Daj was on Earth, so maybe the person that she was supposed to gravitate towards was Picard if her life ever came in danger. But maybe Soji was designed because she's kind of obsessed with him to gravitate towards Hugh. And maybe when she activated, and that's why she followed Picard, is because Hugh was there with her and stuff like that. So I don't know. There's a lot of different things at play, which I don't know if we'll get the answers to that, but I had those questions come up in my mind.
well, um, I don't know what I'm not exactly remembering right what Maddox said on his deathbed or right before he died when he's talking to Picard about. Does he say anything about implanting the memory of Picard, or does that come from the fact that she is part of Data? Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the whole
Interesting, yeah.
fractal neurotic. Is it?
Isn't that a show on YouTube, the Nerdrotic? No, just
No,
Fractal Nerdrotics.
no, not nerdrotic, neurotic.
I know. I was trying to make a
Oh,
bad
okay,
joke.
sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, over my head there. But
No worries. No worries.
but you heard the theory about what if Daj was part of Data, therefore she would go toward Picard and run toward him, but that uh, Lore was also a part of Lore's neural net or something, some bullshit, is a part of Soji. So that's why she's kind of not trusting Picard and is very hesitant to trust the good guys, because she was so
Oh
easy
man,
to trust the bad
you always
guys.
do this to me. You always like you always make me go into despair. No, Soji can't be. I don't think that Lore ever did the head tilt that Riker. I'm just gonna put a kibosh on that theory because I don't think Lore ever, unless he did it purposely, which
Yeah,
he did
they
in one
make it a point in
episode.
this episode to show the head tilt and have Riker remark on it. I think
And
that's a bait and
that's a
switch.
clear sign.
Lore, I don't know. We got to go back and see. I don't think Lore ever did the head tilt. No,
Lore did it
he had a
when he
twitch.
was imitate. Well, he had a Twitch, but he was imitating Data one
Yes.
time, and so he is capable of imitating Data. So the lore theory could still hold up because Soji Soji may be imitating Data to gather their trust instead, and then she's gonna betray everyone. But no, I don't think so. I think she is the same. The fractal neuronics thing means that two identical kind of brains formed. But just
Yeah.
like with identical twins, your experiences shape the way you react. So if you were to separate twins, as were these twins, they
Yeah.
weren't ever together, they would react differently to things. Very, very interesting conversation.
Do you
We
find
have to give a summary.
just one last thing?
But go ahead. Yeah.
Do you find the way that they've written Soji's character is probably one of the best examples of good writing in this show, because it totally makes sense, her attitude toward everything and her constantly questioning. If she just went there and just automatically started trusting everybody, I would have picked up on it and said, no, no, she should be suspicious of everybody, and that's exactly what they did. And that's something in this show or this episode that I really did like. And let's do the summary and get into some of the really dumb decisions they make.
Sure. I think that for me personally, if we're going to talk about the writing on the show, which I'm always reluctant to do because I'm not a writer by trade, so I'm just critiquing a craft that I don't know enough about. But based on the limited sort of like layman's knowledge I have, I would say that for me as an audience member, the writing is about 75 to 85% good, and then like probably like 15% phenomenal, and maybe 5% like terrible. So I think for me that's where the show skews if I were to like kind of rate the writing overall so far in the 7 episodes that we've seen.
And you got to realize
Um,
too, it all everything's from the top down. Kurtzman floats very high above this show creatively,
but I
right?
love
He,
what he's doing. See,
but
I don't know if you're a critic of his or not.
Shaban is the guy. Shaban and Patrick Stewart, I guess, are the guys who kind of say, okay, we can use contemporary language. Okay, okay with the vape. Okay with the cigar smoking. Okay with the heavy drinking. We'll put all this stuff in there because we want to let people know that uh, these problems can exist in the 24th century. But that rubs people the wrong way, and I totally understand that. I
I
think those are
Yeah,
poor
I agree.
decisions.
I
Yeah,
I
sorry, go
think that
ahead.
that does rub. I think that rubs a certain group of people, such as myself, who enjoyed like I was one of those kids that grew up not cussing, and like I even when I lived in Seattle and I moved into a dear friend of mine's home. In their home, cussing wasn't considered like a taboo, and even the children, although they did it, they knew it was bad, so they weren't doing it like crazy, but even the children would sometimes, when they weren't thinking that anyone was watching, would cuss. And so I kind of brought attention to that. I became known as like Sohail Poppins, as a matter of fact, because I was so strict compared to, compared to like not just the parents, but I have to say in Seattle as a norm, you see a lot of cussing, and it's okay. It's tolerated. So I came from Florida, and we don't cuss in Florida. I guess maybe that's why. But I totally related to Star Trek on that level when I was a kid, because one of the things that I noticed was that like it was very rare, such as in Star Trek 4 or whatever or whatnot.
Yeah,
That being said, like
the cursing doesn't bother me at all.
well, yeah. That being said, I'm a cusser, and so when I think about like now as an adult, like I love to I have a
Yeah,
shitty mouth
a
sometimes,
shitty mouth.
and a shitty mouth sometimes, and I know that I consider it's like I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. I'm telling these kids like, yo, don't don't say bad words, and at the same time I love saying them. But that being said, yeah, the cursing doesn't bother me, but I will say that the show seems to be very deliberate about it in both directions,
Yeah,
because like Annika doesn't curse, Hugh doesn't curse, Elnor doesn't curse. He doesn't, he's not a character that would curse. And then in this whole episode, when I have a lot of things to say about their dynamic together, how like amazingly connected it was to TNG. But one of the things that was like so refreshing is that no one said anything untoward. Everyone spoke in such a beautiful kind of like deliberate professional manner, if you will, or respectful, I think would be perhaps the better word. And there
yeah.
was no cursing until you went back to the cube. And I don't think even anyone cursed on the cubes. I think Narek and Narissa don't curse in English anyways. They cuss in Romulan, but
I think this is the first episode you actually hear Narek say, he says quaz or something like that. He's definitely saying the F word, because
Oh, okay.
when he loses track of the ship after Girardi uh, takes the formula that puts her into a seizure.
Well, we dove right in, but let's do the summary because
Yeah,
it's part
yeah,
of the
yeah.
tradition.
Yes, yes.
um, I'd like to give it, and I'd love for you to just like jump in whenever you have an idea or a thought or even like disagreement with what I'm saying. So, and then also, the order is going to be wrong because we hop back and forth between the cube, and I'm only going to be thinking of Nepenthe, so that's already a thing.
Yeah.
uh we start off with a flashback to 3 weeks ago in the timeline of the show. So 3 weeks ago was not this episode, but in the timeline of the show, it's only 3 weeks has passed since these events. So we're back at Daystrom Institute, and we get a different perspective of the meeting of Girardi and O, where it goes a lot deeper. And also they use different angles, which I really was delighted by, and I enjoyed that because it was also much more fleshed out in pacing as well. But we find out that O has been tailing Girardi and approaches her with this proposition where she says that, like, look, we know you've been talking to Picard and that you've been feeding him data, but we'd basically think that you should help us by following him and doing something, like accomplishing a mission. She's like, why? What is it that you want me to do? And she's like, let me show you. And she does like a mind meld, which I thought, I don't know, you might know better, but I thought only Vulcans could do mind melds. Maybe I was wrong about that. Like, since Romulans are kind of stemming from the Vulcans originally, maybe they can relearn how to do mind melds in that level of like psychic, or maybe Romulans do mind melds too, and we just didn't
Well,
know about it until now.
uh,
And I also thought she was a Romulan. Maybe she's not a
well,
Romulan.
Admiral O is a Vulcan.
You mean a Commodore O?
I mean, yeah, yeah, Commodore O. It's been speculated that she's
That
a
she's a
Romulan because
Romulan.
of the
I definitely,
sunglasses.
yeah, yeah, I definitely thought she was a Romulan as well. So I was totally thinking she's a, but even if she is a Romulan, let's just say it is possible that Romulans can mind meld too, or that they can learn how to mind meld. They might have the same abilities,
Yeah,
but she shows Girardi the clips from Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
yeah.
I don't think you made that joke on your thing, but I had to.
No, it's just, yeah, it's one of those like played out things where you see flashes where it's like a few frames each thing, and you see something but you don't really see anything, and I'm really not a fan of that kind of thing.
I stole
Just
that.
show me a cool Hannibal. Remember how Hannibal used to do like dreams and visions?
Hannibal, like the show Hannibal. I never
The
watched
show
it.
Hannibal. Well,
Yeah, I never watched it. Sorry.
visually they did all this like trippy stuff, and here like they did it with Picard last episode, where it's like, here's a bunch of flashes from First Contact and Best of Both Worlds.
Oh, right.
So
But Star Trek kind of does that. I remember in First Contact there was a lot of that kind of
there was, yeah,
photography or kind of
there was in the dream, that was it.
dun 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 bum bum ba ba ba. I wish we heard that. Maybe they're saving it for the board cube. But
Do you notice how Commodore O is like super like chill now? Like she almost comes across as a good guy the way she's talking to Girardi. And it's like, hey, wait, you're not the mustache twirling villain you were in episode 2 when we first met you.
or is it that you're empathizing with her cause? I don't know.
No,
But yeah, no, 100%
they're
it
trying
was
to make it
I,
clear that
yeah,
she's trying to do the right thing. I mean, in it could
in
turn
her
out that
mind.
Picard is actually for real fighting a lost cause.
Oh shit. Stop it with these
It's
things.
so depressing, Rafi.
Stop it, pendejo.
Mish Money Penny.
Which one even? So Girardi does she vomit in that scene? I don't remember, but she's
She
totally
does.
affected by it.
Yeah.
She vomits. It blows her mind, and she's like, "What must I do?" Basically, she's just like convinced that she has to do whatever it is to stop this future
Can we talk
from
about
occurring. And it
what was
what we
actually in the
saw
vision? Yeah.
we saw a and you see a better clip of it in the next time on Star Trek clip, but we saw like this circular place that apparently Commodore O is at, wearing some kind of like ceremonial robes, and it looks like it's on a salt flat or something, and there's a circle in the middle, and they're all facing away from it, and it zaps them with some kind of knowledge or energy. And then we know from the next time on Star Trek that they all start tearing their faces apart or some shit like that. It's kind of like
They all go mad, and there's one clip
yeah.
of one woman clawing at her face, and then there's another one of somebody with a pistol to their head blowing their brains out.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. That was It is disturbing imagery, needless to say, but I didn't catch. I was kind of taken out of it when the explosion of the city occurs, because it just reminded me so
Yeah.
much of Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
They they
So
they should have put this. They should have put this scene in episode 2 when, or no, in episode 3 when it first occurred, because when it cut away, it was just so useless. You're like, oh, okay, we're left to speculate now that she's been brainwashed or she's a secret agent or something happened. If they just
I
showed
think
us this from the beginning, and I know they have to do this 3 weeks before, 14 years before opening every episode, and I think that's gonna grow tired. I mean, they can't do that every time. Hope they don't do
I
that
think
in
it's
season
okay
2.
to be yeah, I think it's okay to be non-linear like this the first time, but you can't do these same get like gimmicks a second time. So I do think that season 2 will be different.
And it will
But
have
I
a different showrunner as well. So
Right, so different style or whatnot. I approve of these things because I'm enjoying like the mystery unfolding,
yeah,
and also because personally, and this is a personal thing, and this is the part of it's like where I'm more biased, I think, than most people are. But personally, I want Picard to last like 20 episodes. So I'm like I know what the argument is. Like you could instead of doing this, you can have other exposition that's more useful, perhaps. But I think it'll all tie in nicely. I'm just really curious what the ending's going to be like, because I think the whole season as a whole is going to be a winner, at least the way it's trending for me. But we'll see. Anyways, after that scene, we cut to the Borg cube, and Hugh is being interrogated by Narissa. And I have a question about. I'm going to interrupt myself, and I have a question, and I don't know if you caught it, but I've watched it 2 times only. It's a heavy episode. It's very dense. I think there's a lot of information, so I have to watch it a lot more times. But um, why was Hugh and why were Hugh and Elnor separated?
no explanation for that whatsoever. They don't pick up where they left off with them, and it's like there's a whole thing that happened in between the time the last episode ended and the time we pick up with Narissa questioning Hugh, and then Elnor's wherever, and there's this question of how is he flying up into the walls and the ceiling and stuff
Well,
like
that
it's
that
just
part
so
I think is
magical
his
and so
co-op.
stupid.
I know, but I think that I love it. I think that's his
He's
co-op Mulat
Batman.
training, but he is Batman.
He's
He's Space
Batman.
Batman. I think that Evan Evagora would like to hear that he's Space Batman.
And I can understand how he can kill some guys with disruptors by
I think
being.
he would be more like Robin. I think Picard is Space Batman,
Ugh.
but Robin can do those acrobatics, right? Like, isn't that something Robin can do on Batman?
Oh my god! I just had an epiphany.
What's that?
Maybe he's too old now, but Patrick Stewart would have been a great Alfred.
Oh yeah, oh, he could play Alfred now too, actually.
Anyway, oh yeah.
Did,
So
Michael Caine played Alfred. So did um uh that great American treasure who everyone does an impression of, but I can't do an impression of. What's his name?
Ian McKellen.
No, the Christian Bale Alfred. I can't believe I
Oh,
can't. I'm
oh,
blanking.
Michael Caine. Oh, is that
No.
who?
Oh,
Is
was
that who?
Michael Caine
Is
his?
that who you're talking about?
So he's not an American treasure. I made a mistake. Who am I thinking of that was Alfred that was American? No one, right?
No one. Jeremy
Oh,
Irons
my
was
bad.
Alfred. I don't know who you're thinking of.
He's also not American. Okay, I was just
Yeah.
thinking there's an alternate timeline where where Alfred is is American. Who would be a good American Alfred? You can't have Morgan Freeman because he already played that other character. Although I would have nominated Morgan
Well,
Freeman.
didn't they cast an Alfred in the new Batman movie?
Oh, I don't know anything about it except I saw the picture of the Batmobile.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be right back. Keep going with the summary. I'll be like 2 minutes. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be able to listen? Are you gonna keep listening?
I can't. I'm gonna have to take the headphones off. But just keep going.
Okay, I'll just
I'll be
I'll
right
just keep
back.
talking, audience. This is normal on Starfleet Boy. We have interruptions. Uh, so I wonder if this is PJ's way of keeping me on track, and he's gonna learn that that's impossible to do. Uh, so we cut to the board cube, and actually, this is one of the most disturbing scenes. The show does not shy away from being disturbing, and that is the execution, the summarily no, the summer. Oh, geez, can't remember that word. Narissa summarily executes some of the newly reclaimed ex-Borg in front of Hugh to convince him to give up the position of Picard and Soji. And Hugh reluctantly, you could tell it's taking everything he has. Reluctantly, this is no fun without PJ here. But audience, I hope you're enjoying this. So Hugh reluctantly does. He was able to hold fast and not give up the information, but it's at great pain, and it's beautifully performed by Jonathan Del Arco. One of the just moments where we had, I think we hadn't seen what I like to call the full character. So we get the full Picard. Here we get, I think, the full Hugh, and it's just pretty heavy stuff. So Narissa executes every single ex Borg. Are you back, PJ? I thought I
Yeah.
heard something.
Yes, I'm
Oh, thank
back.
goodness. You're gonna. I hope
Uh,
you enjoy hearing my
um,
description of
Andy
the.
Serkis.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis is playing Alfred in the new Batman.
Oh, that's an interesting
I
choice.
had to let my
Is
cat
that
out
where
and
you
use the
went to go
washroom,
find out?
and then I looked it up right before I got back.
Nice, cool. All right,
So Narissa executes, and that's pretty sad,
all the
man. Like,
Borg.
yeah, Hugh's reaction is so heartbreaking. It's like, oh, poor guy. Of course, they're not going to
I
kill
was
him,
just
though.
saying. I was I was just saying while you were away that Del Arco here. It's like I feel like he's giving it all he's got with his performance of Hugh, and it's all the more reason why it's so horrible what happens later on. But anyways, she decides not to kill him, and she says, because of that stupid treaty, I'm gonna have to leave you living. And I think she's also being really intentionally cruel. I think she wants Hugh to remember that he was the reason. She even says that she's like, you're the reason that they're dead. And actually, we also get like another glimpse of either what the Jat Vaj think of Borg, which, considering what they think of artificial and like life, it's understandable but also awful. But we get really here, she just calls them things, she calls the Borg things, and she just like really expresses her disgust for them. She says that the whole
Yes,
thing
and she's
is like an abomination or whatever.
this. This ball cube sickens me. This place,
Yeah, she's like,
is Picard? That'll be my next. Like everything's just. It's just. I don't know the actress. I can't blame her, I guess, but she's given these like terrible, terrible lines of dialogue.
really, I loved all of that. I thought she was extremely I thought she was just it like really hit home how awful a
Hello,
character, like a
baby
person.
brother. Have you figured out her secret yet? Not
I
yet.
love it. I love it.
It's like, how many times are we gonna do
From
this?
from a performing standpoint, I do have to disagree. I love it all, but I love that part of it. But I do understand what you're saying. I think
She
she is
she
over
is
the
quite
top, and I
stunning.
like it.
She is quite stunning as a Romulan. I must say, like physically, she commands she
The
looks
room, if you will.
intimidating. I just wish like what they did with Commodore O when she's pleading with Girardi, like she seems genuinely afraid and concerned. So that's like, oh well, if she doesn't seem like
But
she's a villain.
Narissa's a different.
Narissa's a
Narissa's
different,
like, I think,
yeah, she's a
different
different
type
thing.
of different thing altogether.
Yeah,
I thought that O might be the leader of the Jat Vash, but I think they're manipulating O as well. I don't know. I think there's more to it than that. Like, I remember in the earlier episode, she said something like, "We don't want to lose our ally." Somehow, she referred to her as an ally. So O is also perhaps, maybe all of Starfleet is under their spell, so to speak, and she uses people like O, to do that. We don't really yet know anything about the Jat Vaj except that they don't fight the Koat Milat with guns, although they will shoot you in the back. But
yeah,
but later on, so after this scene when she leaves Hugh to kind of mourn and look at the horror that was partially his fault, he believes that, and I would too if I were in his situation. All of a sudden Elnor appears, and then at the same time, while all this is going on, Narek takes a snake head, they call it, which is like a little Delta flyer or whatever, capable of warp and has a lot of weaponry apparently for its size. He takes one of those and he leaves the Borg cube, and then Narissa releases the La Serena, which was locked on a tractor beam uh, during the whole all of this. And so they release the La Serena as a way to like hope that they can chase them and find out where they're headed, because she figures out, or they figure out, they're likely headed to the planet. So if we can't get the information out of Hugh, then we're gonna get it from um, these other people through this other means. And he takes his fidget spinner and he goes uh, and he starts chasing La Serena. What did you think of the fidget spinner?
I didn't pay much attention to it. I just thought it was so dumb that they've been tracking Girardi this whole time, right? They weren't concerned about the La Serena approaching. Uh, I can understand that Narissa probably couldn't do anything to Picard because of the Federation law thing. But the moment he violated the rules, she had every right to capture him. And it seems that the Romulan guards are so inefficient on this show. Like they just don't know how to do their jobs. They don't know how to lock onto people inside the Borg cube at will, which I find strange. Anyway, what was the question?
I was just wondering what you thought of this fidget spinner, and
Oh
then you
yeah,
went
the
off on
fidget
the
spinner.
on the
Yeah,
tracker.
yeah, yeah.
But what I have to say about the tracker is I think it came into play at the right moment. I do think that, like, though it's not depicted on screen, um that perhaps the telemetry was coming in, and who knows, definitely that's a gap. So I'm happy to fill in that
But
it.
Narek is so obviously chasing them, and it's like, dude, just hold back, wait to see where they go, and but I guess he's got to follow behind them.
There was this one comment where so I like this because it reminded me of the Hunt for Red October. Narek thinks he's out of their sensor range,
Okay.
and but then I forget if it was Rafi or Rios who says it, but someone on the La Serena said there's like a ghost or a signature just outside the sensor range, and it doesn't seem random. It seems like it's following us, which we've seen on Star Trek like a lot of times
Yeah.
where, like that kind of thing. So my impression is that, like, they were like kind of sending him on a wild goose chase until they could figure a way to shake him, and then that's what finally happens. Girardi decides to do the right thing, which I actually kind of that kind of like shook me too, because I actually started hating her and enjoyed hating her. I was like,
Yeah.
this, this character deserves the worst punishment. But here I so this is another example of what I think like kind of was a good payoff, is that like we all, I don't know about all of us, but at least for me, I'm starting to doubt how I felt about Girardi. I think she's a victim too, of whatever the Jat Vash are up to. So she's starting to come to her senses, which is also reassuring, because it means that someone who's under the spell of the knowledge of like whatever will blow your mind can recover can recover their humanity from it, even if it drives them crazy at first. So I don't know. I
So,
thought about that kind of stuff.
and like, what exactly was she shown? There's two different things.
I think we're gonna find out
One
next
thing.
week.
One thing is the secret that makes you tear your eyeballs out, apparently, and the other is what she showed Girardi, and Girardi clearly got sick. Like, it made her sick, but it didn't.
But it convinced her
It's
to,
causing her some kind of PTSD and whatnot. Obviously,
and it convinced her that she was wrong about artificial life, and it convinced her to kill Maddox and to destroy Soji if she can, because she's all about it. She's all for it. She's like willingly helping them. So I think again, the tracking comes into play in the right way. I think it's like meant to come into play that way. And she realizes in that moment that like it's up to her. So she could, I'm glad she didn't shoot herself out of an airlock, because that would have been like also a solution to the problem. You know what I mean? But I think I've already had as many deaths as I could take uh,
oh yeah,
in Star Trek Picard. I will say that obviously I offer critiques sparingly because I'm loving this show, but the deaths are getting harder and harder to take. So I'm really like
yeah. Well,
hoping.
it's not ending anytime soon. I can predict a major character dying next episode.
Can, can you do? We loved speculation on Starfleet Boy, so I'm ready. Sometimes I regret like speculation, but I'd
Do you
love to
want me to
hear it if
say who I
you.
think is dying in the next? I was wrong about. I thought Eleanor was going to die. I thought
Right,
Eleanor was going to sacrifice himself to save Hugh, and somehow Hugh was going to go back into the room and
and do
join
whatever.
Picard. That would have been the best thing ever. But anyway,
Oh my gosh. Um.
but anyway,
Well,
they
Hughes,
yeah
we'll
they
got to talk about Hugh and what he was up to next. But anyways, who do you predict is gonna? Who do you think is gonna die in the next episode?
uh, Eleanor.
No, stop it.
I thought he was gonna die in
I love Elnor so much. Uh,
and it's gonna be a
did
double.
you?
It's gonna be double whammy for Seven, because Seven's gonna become start getting attached to him, like in helping him, and at the very end he's gonna. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe Seven's gonna die. Yeah,
No, stop.
I wouldn't be surprised. Listen,
No,
I wouldn't be surprised if they went full Logan. And if you've ever seen Logan, you know
no,
what I'm
I have.
talking.
I
You know
can
what?
only watch that movie once.
But
Do you know that I can only watch Logan one? I can never watch it
but
again, and I don't want Picard season one to be a show that I can only watch one
no, I
time. That I
think you're getting the
can't.
wrong impression of what I'm trying to say. I'm not talking about
Oh,
Picard.
okay,
I'm
okay.
not talking about him dying.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
I'm talking about how. Remember when Logan and the little girl and what's his name, Xavier, go to that family's house, and then that the bad guys go there and kill them all. Well, Picard
I do.
went to Nepenthe, and
No.
they're somehow gonna find the Rikers and question them, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, you had a son named Thad. Oh, very
No.
good then. How about no children?" And they kill fucking Kestra, and
Stop
I
it.
wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt they'd go that
Stop it.
dark.
Stop it. I think they have more humanity than say it ain't so.
You
Say
know
it
what?
ain't so. I actually
Somebody made a
there's a
joke.
part of me.
Somebody made a joke about how I wouldn't be surprised if the Rikers have like a dead kid. I don't know who it was. someone on
Oh,
YouTube,
really?
and I was like, yeah, probably. And of course, Thad, but Thad is now connected to the whole synth ban, and if the synths weren't banned, he'd be alive, and blah blah blah.
From a structural standpoint, or from like kind of a, I don't know what you call this, a kismet standpoint, or whatever way you want to look at it, something that's interesting about, so Michael Chabon said that Star, I think we have to take this as gospel, but that one of the main themes about Star Trek Picard is loss, and it's obvious that it is about loss because there's a lot of death so far that we're dealing with in the
Yeah,
show. But
it's mainly about the creators of the series losing their minds and making something that's really weird.
come on, you're enjoying it enough to keep watching.
It's
But
yeah,
but
it's a romp.
wait, if I can just say something I thought that was interesting, and my sister kind of pointed this out, was so Daj lost her sister, and she really bonds with Kestra, who lost her brother, and Troy lost her sister when she was young. So there's this like interesting character connection between those women, which I liked actually, that she saw that, and so that made sense to me in a way. There was also another deep kind of thing that I felt, and we haven't gotten to this part in the summary yet, but um, Troy has experienced loss of a child twice now, because she lost the child, the one that, like, remember the one that
Yeah,
like grew up in a day or whatever. It
season
like,
two.
yeah, it like, so she experienced the whole, the whole thing from like birth to like this kid dying, and then how tragic is it that the same thing happened to her with her son? The child was a boy, and so it's just like a weird kind of
That's just a
tragic.
little bit of history repeating. But anyway,
It's yeah, yeah, I agree. It's like that. But
isn't it cool?
anyways,
Isn't I find it kind of cool that Kestra's blonde and she kind of resembles Kirsten Dunst, who played Kestra in that episode.
Kestra on the, yeah, that's another good little
Yeah,
note.
and
So
there are tragic parallels in her story, and you know what? I could have done without that. I would have liked. It would have probably been better if they delegated all of the. Kestra is the one who makes up all the languages and kind of lives in a fantasy world because she is an only child. I would have found that more interesting than this whole. Oh, by the way, we had a son who made up the languages. That's fine. That's cool. And
I
and
think
it's
I
sad.
think
It's
that
sad for the sister. You know what I mean? You feel bad for Kestra, but it was not
just
needed. And then on
on a
top of
per
it, they say, "Well, if synths weren't banned, he would have survived." It's like, oh, really? I thought I was getting all emotional about it, and then she says that, and I'm like, oh, you have to tie it. You have to tie it to the synth ban to make it make sense and give Picard more motivation.
I find the scene valuable on a very deep personal level. I don't know how much loss you've experienced in your life so far, but definitely, I've seen some of my friends go through, like, where a pregnancy didn't, it wasn't quite as bad as, like, a kid that turns 15 and dies of like a silicone based infection, but like, parents that have tried to have a kid or have lost a kid at an early age. uh, I unfortunately have experienced that in my friendships, and it has, I'm not married, and I don't have a, or I don't have a child, but so personally I don't relate to it. But it was cathartic for me because I definitely empathized with my friends and felt their sorrow. And so these scenes kind of, especially some of these friends of mine were close enough where I think I would have been like an uncle to the child, much like how Picard, you have that picture of him holding Thad. So I think like, if I have to give the Rikers a tragedy, another reason why it's good is because, another reason why I like this, obviously I don't like the, it's sad, it's like very tragic, but
Yeah,
another reason that I liked it from a just story perspective, I guess, just like, for them,
yeah.
for those characters, is that, and pardon me, I have a cold, so I probably sound stuffy, but that'll, keep us on track. um but I guess one thing that I liked also is that the message that Troy kind of gives about, like, sometimes synthetic is, like the tomato scene with like Soji eating the tomato and saying real is better, and then she's feeling down on herself, and then she conveys what happened to her son, and like how if there was research in
Yeah.
synthetics that they could have saved her, it kind of to me related to stem cell research. It's something that we consider to be taboo and we ban it, and it's like not considered ethically right. But it can also change humanity in a very fundamental way, and it could cure a lot of conditions and diseases. And that's what I related it to. So I found it valuable from a storytelling perspective just to have that kind of like message there.
And that's certainly what they were going for. And they needed a reason to put the Rikers in, and they put them in the last minute. Actually, like
Yeah, I
they'd
heard
filmed the
that
season,
Jonathan Frakes was talking about that on the Ready Room today.
so I understand they wanted to have something emotional, an emotional context to the grander story of the season. That makes sense from a story perspective, and it certainly worked for you. I
Well,
thought it was just
it worked for me.
I thought it was just
It worked
piling
for
on
me.
because it what goes. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no. I want you to complete your thought. I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to say that the reason it works for me is because I personally would be heartbroken if no one from TNG had come back this season. I would, and I think that I have a feeling no one else will, because if
Yeah.
they put the Rikers in at the last minute, it means that, I mean, they're
Oh,
like the
I'm
character.
not objecting to the fact that they put the Rikers in it at the last minute. I'm glad they put them in there, and everything about what's going on in their little house and whatever with Kestra and the dinner and all this is very good, except for a few little nitpicks about the unicorn bunnies.
I think this
But
production,
I think the whole tragedy thing for me personally just piled on
yeah,
more tragic, depressing bullshit in an already depressing kind of show where somebody later tries to commit suicide or seemingly tries to commit suicide for the greater good, obviously, but it's very disturbing. And then
I think
you have Hugh bleeding out at the neck, and it's like really. And then you have this,
I think if Girardi, I think if you're talking about Girardi and what she does, I would love to talk about that scene deeper because,
yeah.
and audience, we're not going to do a summary. I'm sorry, PJ already did a great one. No, I'm just going to interrupt here because we gotta just
No,
we're too
no,
excited. No, I don't.
go
I
through.
think this summary is a waste of time. It's like
I'll shut up.
if you guys want a summary, go to PJ's channel and listen to his
I
recap and what. Go ahead.
Yeah, don't recommend the recap because I barely do one.
Oh shit.
I just kind of ramble, you know what I mean? Like
I hear you,
the other times that I did
but
them
I
live, I actually had notes. This time I
But
didn't.
people watching this
I did it right
episode of
after.
Starfleet Boy, but people watching this episode of Starfleet Boy are not gonna. They're not gonna watch it if they haven't seen Picard. So we don't need to do summaries. It's very fresh. It's very timely. So we keep trying, but maybe they're not necessary. I have to realize that. But anyways, uh, you were saying, I think that that it's just a lot, it's weighing down all the tragedy. I agree. I think it is. But I have more patience for the show. I think there's going to be a payoff. I'm hoping that the ending will be like insanely hopeful in some way. uh, but it is starting to weigh on me. I have to say that we're just going to cut to it. Hugh's death I was not cool with. I am actually in disbelief. I think it's a I'm hoping I'm still going to be pissed about this a little bit, but I'm hoping it's some sort of publicity stunt. And that like can the Borg, let me ask you, can the Borg prosthetic, like the Borg parts, regenerate wounds like that? Could Hugh maybe not be dead?
No, I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Ugh. I know
I
Jonathan
don't
Del
think they were
Arco.
messing around there.
Jonathan, did you see the thing? Del Arco sent a message to fans from the Star Trek cruise.
No.
I think you're right. I mean, I'm just in denial. He in the thing he says, he knew his character was going to die and that it's a death. So I hope it's not a publicity stunt, but I also hope it is. Speaking of the Star Trek cruise, would you ever do that?
No, no.
Why is there?
I would never go on a big boat. Sorry, it's not my thing.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm dying to do it. I love all the stuff that I'm seeing on Twitter from the Star Trek cruise. So hopefully, one day I'll go for you. I'll send you pictures.
I have no desire to meet celebrities.
It's not even just about meeting the celebrities. I think
or
it's
even being
also
around them,
about
or being around a lot of people. I'm afraid of cruises because like it's just like a petri dish. You know what I mean?
well, there are a
Ugh,
few
it's
ships that
gross.
are that are not coming back home right now because of coronavirus, and I hope. But if I had to be stuck on a ship with a virus, I would love for it to be with the Star, especially Anson Mount. I feel like he would save the day. Like I think he would take over the ship and like run her aground in the Antarctic.
Yeah.
And he's like, we got to go to the coldest place possible. It's the only way the virus will die. We're gonna freeze ourselves only to the point of like some crazy idea,
Mm.
and then he'll cure all these people of the coronavirus, and then hurrah. Uh, no, I don't think Anson Mount would really do that. It's too it's too dangerous. But Captain Pike might do it.
Can we
Um,
talk about the pizza?
yeah, I'd love to talk about the pizza. What do you want to say about the pizza? I want to eat that pizza. So you're not? Are you a vegetarian? I keep forgetting.
No, I uh, I've significantly cut down like the amount of meat I eat, and I have
But
like
why didn't you
I
like?
have meatless chicken nuggets, and I have
Oh,
fake bacon and fake pepperoni and stuff like that. Fake
but
cheese
why didn't you like the? So why didn't you like the whole fact that they hunt rabbit corn, bunny corns, and make sausage at home and do all those things?
because in 23.99 that shit is disgusting. Like and this is what they don't. They're kind of just saying like, okay, but on this planet the Rikers do this now. It's okay. It's okay to do this on this planet. Fine. They were doing this
No, but
if they were
Riker,
doing this
remember
stuff on Earth.
Riker made the real eggs that one time. He was always into
The real
this kind of
eggs.
thing. Remember that episode? There's an episode where
Oh
and Worf loves the eggs,
yeah,
and
egg.
he's like, "This is real eggs. They're not replicated. Try this." And someone even says something like,
There is a
"Why would?"
history. There is a history of them using real eggs as opposed to replicated ones. In like they do that in Generations.
And he's the chef on Enterprise, so
Yeah,
he learned how to cook, and he probably enjoys cooking. Archer certainly didn't, want to use synthesized food, so he
I have
probably
no, yeah, I
learned.
have no issue with Riker cooking food, and I like the fact that he has the old timey wood oven and he burns the stuff, which doesn't make any sense
Yeah,
because he burns the tomato black, but the rest of the pizza is not charred as well.
no, that was bad. That was bad. Yeah, you're right,
But
but it was still delightful.
the fact that I guess Kestra's going out with the bow and arrow, killing these cute little bunny corns, which are stupid.
I don't think they're cute. They have fucking
There's
venom sacs. They're a nuisance.
but
She's probably doing a
it's
favor to
just
some
it's
other
just a
animal.
rabbit with a horn on its head. It's just whatever. It's stupid
And if
enough
it
as it
stabs
is.
you, it probably has like a neurotoxin or something like that. So it's actually kind of dangerous what she's doing. And it reminded me of blowfish, how you have to cut out the the sacs
Oh
if you're
yeah.
gonna eat blowfish.
But
So
consuming the flesh of animals shouldn't be a thing here. It shouldn't even be a question.
I might get in trouble from my friends who are more conscientious than me online, but I really love meat. I would hunt.
Well,
I would
get
and I
used,
would
enjoy it while it lasts, buddy, because it's going to be pretty expensive 10, 15 years from now when all the
I don't know.
regulations get slapped down. I mean, dairy's going out the window. Dairy farmers are
I'm
struggling like crazy.
I'm not for the way that so yes, on an ethical level, I hate the meat industry. Period. Like I think it's all abhorrent. To me, that's the deep dark secret that if you learn the truth about, you go crazy and you want to do crazy shit. Because like it's really bad. Um, I try really hard to eat meat, and you're right, it's expensive to eat meat that's sourced from like uh, you know uh more ethical farms and things like that. And there's a bunch of them. I don't want to go into detail here, but you could find some YouTubers that are raising food in ethical operations. But anyways, that being said, So I understand where you're coming from, and I invested in a company. I didn't invest a lot because I don't have a lot of money to invest, but I invested in a company that is growing tissue, like in other words, like using a process akin to cloning. They're able to grow like steak meat, like a loin, without like making a whole cow. They just make the one part of it, like the loin or the chuck or the rump or whatever parts you want,
Yes, I've heard of this.
and then you can so you have this meat that never was alive, and it's supposed to be flawless. And then I'm also a big fan of like the impossible meats. Like, have you tried that impossible burger?
No, I've only tried bacon
Great
strips,
stuff.
pepperoni, cheese, and chicken.
The Riker's home reminds me of
Excuse
a
me.
cabin that I visit sometimes. A friend's cabin up in Gainesville, Florida,
Yeah.
and it and there's they don't hunt like that, but they have a barbecue, and they would make a pizza,
Well, it's
and
a
they have
nice
a dock
California
and a
cabin.
lake. It's no, I think it reminds me of like a Florida cabin actually, but it is, you're probably
Yeah,
right. It's in the mountains actually, so it wouldn't be a Florida cabin.
my
I take that
relatives
back.
are obsessed with going to Florida, so they would know more about that than I do. But yeah, yeah,
No, it's not. I mean, like,
they're like,
there's
let's go
some
to
places in Florida that
Florida.
have cabins like that. What did you think of those cool mountain formations? I loved how alien Nepenthe looked, but it also looked very normal.
Yeah, it's one of those like looks like Earth but not Earth type of planets, where it's like oxygen atmosphere, greenery, bunny rabbit,
Without with
venomous bunny rabbits with unicorn horns that they love
Which
to
I wish we had
skin.
seen one, but I think it would have been cheesy
But
if they
they take
animated it badly.
but they take the bunny and they grind it up, man. They grind that cute little bunny's body
I don't
into
think it's cute. I don't
into
think it's what you think it is.
into sausage. It's not good.
It's a sausage, soji, sausage,
Sausage.
sausage. I like that word. Going back to the Rikers for a second, I also love that the house has shields and sensors.
That was a nice touch. Yeah.
That was a cool thing. I also wrote down in my notes that one thing I like about Picard as a show so far is that almost in every episode we get to see a new world, which to me, even though it's not doing it the same way as TNG did, it's kind of in the true vein of Star. Like, a lot of people complain about we don't see enough planets on Star Trek, especially in Star Trek Discovery. I think
Yeah.
that was one of the complaints. And here we've gone to Free Cloud. We've seen what's Elnor's planet called again? Vashti.
Yeah.
We've seen Nepenthe. We've seen Earth, of course. We've seen Mars. So that's already, those are too familiar. But like new planets, we got 3 so far out of 7 episodes, and I think that's pretty fantastic. Am I missing a planet? Oh, and I guess Soji's planet counts. We've seen it. We haven't been there yet, but we're probably gonna go there soon. If not the next episode. So I like that about it. And I wrote a note. This is a Sohail thought or a Starfleet boy thought. Not everyone gets to be an explorer as a career, and I that kind of put things into perspective for me about the show. Is that, like, up until now, like, the main mission of Starfleet, as you corrected me one time and you were right to do so, is exploration. So we were used to Star Trek always being about explorers, right? Like, or at least they're explorers at heart, even though sometimes, like, Captain Archer goes crazy on a nutso mission, and he, like, is not very exploring. Although throughout that he explores as well. This is the first show where, yes, Jean-Luc is an explorer, but I don't think that Rafi and Rios and Agnes are explorers, and we get that really clear from Agnes, where she's like, I don't even want to go off world. She's interested in exploring cybernetics. That's her exploration, if you will. Rios is a runner. He'll run a person. He'll run. He's just like a glorified Uber driver. No, just kidding. But but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. He's
And and Rafi's a tactical person. She's like you know like a drunk James Bond. Like she's a security person. She's not an explorer. That was not her interest in Starfleet career. So like I think that's an interesting thing to see. And I think that's one of the reasons I love this episode is because so when Soji's being led to the shower by Kestra, Picard and uh, Deanna and Riker immediately go into the same kind of like back and forth that they go on the Enterprise, where they're downloading information to each other. So he's like, "Oh, she's a friend. Okay, I see." And then Deanna's like, "I can't sense anything from her," and they're all just kind of like having a powwow, much like they always did. And then it hits home even further, where Deanna even has to tell him she's like, "Look, I get it. You're like you don't want to be Jean-Luc Picard, but you have to be Jean-Luc Picard. And if it helps, why do you pretend our dinner table is the ready room?" And I love that scene because here in this episode, it didn't matter that they were on a cabin. It really felt like they were on the Enterprise solving a problem, discussing it together. And the writing here was so reminiscent of that era, and even like I think was trying to pay homage to the writing of TNG, and I ate it up, and that like really saved this episode for me.
Yeah, I think the dinner. I don't really like this episode overall because all the Borg stuff and what they did to Hugh and everything with Narissa and all that stuff. I'm just tired of it. I'm really like just fed up with Cube stuff, and we're still gonna be on the Cube next episode. It's like, god damn it! But the dinner table scene is probably one of the best scenes, if not the best scene in the show so far. The way he talks about listen to the timbre of my voice, and he takes the advice of Deanna Troy, and you know what
So good, so good.
the scene that leads up to this, where he jokes around and he says, "Yeah, it's a plot to, yeah, we're really plotting against you," or something along those lines. He's 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 being very insensitive to Soji, and she pushes him, and Riker says, "Hey,
Yeah,
I thought that was really good." And people have already complained about this, how Picard has to get chewed out again, and I don't take it as Deanna
it's
Troy.
different.
I don't think
No,
take
it's
it as
so
chewing him
yeah,
out.
it's different.
She's talking to him as if she would speak to him. She's speaking to him in the same way she would if she was still under his command on the Enterprise.
She's done it's in her character history. She's done this to him
It's
a lot of
yes, it's
times.
in
Yeah.
her nature to tell it how it is,
Right.
and it was a
And
perfect
I was
moment
so
for her as an actor
glad that
too.
she didn't say I was so scared when she said it's not customary for the counselor to say this. And I was so scared that she was going to be like, "You're fucking out of line, Jean-Luc." But she didn't cuss at him, and she said it with love, and she was like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I don't I don't like
you got to be fucking Jean-Luc Picard, you little bitch.
yeah.
That's what I was really afraid of. I
He's
was
like,
so afraid. I was so ready to be triggered.
pick your old saggy balls up off the ground, you son of a bitch.
That's it's so good. Audience, if you don't know by now, Starfleet Boy is not meant for kids. Also, I have a cold, and you can't see this, PJ, but I keep wiping my nose, so I apologize to the audience if they're grossed out by that.
Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah, I
That's
loved
okay.
all that stuff. Okay, can we talk about Hugh's death scene for a second?
Yeah.
Or is it too hard to talk about?
I can't talk about it, man. It hurts me.
So I was kind of baffled as to why Elnor stayed behind, but I also kind of understood because they are buying Picard as much time as possible, right? They're trying to cover his escape because if they had all gone, it is possible that the Romulans could have cracked into the Queen's cell and figured out,
That's right.
we don't
Yeah.
know how much, you know what I mean? Like they could have
Yeah.
actually like figured out what their destination is. So by Hugh and Elnor staying behind, Elnor is kind of trying to protect Hugh because he know. So like this is the way I justified is like he knows Picard loves Hugh, and so he's trying to protect Hugh. But I think he also loves Hugh himself. I think Elnor, not in maybe not in a sexual way, but falls in love with the character. And Hugh's such a pure character. It's like he's one of those characters that a lot of fans fell in love with, including myself, in the original airing in TNG, and again, kudos to Jonathan Del Arco, but he like really seems so genuine, and there's just something so interesting and pure about Hugh, and
Yeah.
he maintains that throughout Picard. And I think Elnor kind of sees that, and he's drawn to it because up until now other than protecting Picard, he hasn't really bonded with any of the other characters. uh I think he's mistrustful of Girardi, or just awkward around her when, like, because for whatever, she's kind of like critical of him in that one scene.
Yeah.
um he Rios kind of like is intimidating to him, I think, because he's such a confident character in ways that Elnor, who hasn't grown up yet and become a full man, or whatever,
Wait,
if you
wait.
will, he can't grow.
Rios is intimidated by whom?
No, Elnor's intimidated by Rios.
Oh,
Like,
Elnor's
he's in
intimidated.
doubt. Like, he's just intimidated by. He's just always in doubt. But when he gets to Hugh, I think he like connects with him in a way, and you see it in this episode because he's very protective of Hugh, and he even like grabs Hugh's head at one point in a very intimate way, and says, "Don't worry, this won't happen again." And
Yeah.
then later, it's reciprocated when Hugh is dying, and I really felt glad that Hugh had someone like that with him when he died, because you could tell that Elnor really cares. And like,
Yeah.
Hugh like reaches for Elnor in that scene, and Elnor holds his hand the whole time while he's dying. And even this is something that is both a complaint, but also I love it. I kind of want to know how Hugh knows this, but he says, "How's that for a lost cause?" Because Hugh never found. I don't think anyone says in front of Hugh that the Qowat Milat only go after lost causes. But I did love the line, and I did love the reading, and I did love that Hugh says to him, like, "How's that for a lost cause? Like, thank you." Like, it's his way of making a joke and saying thank you, and I like that. And so it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, like, maybe Picard's cause truly is a lost cause, and that's where Elnor plays into this. But I loved all that. I thought, despite the fact that I was protesting the death, like, I even want to do a petition online to go. What I want is, PJ, and I don't know if you think this is a cool idea or not, but the next short treks, whatever they are, it should be like all Picard short treks, and then maybe one Discovery short trek. And I want at least one or two about Hugh, uh, before this. I'd love to see
Yeah.
one of Seven of Nine before all this. Like, it'd be neat if short treks filled in some of these like gaps, for us. And I think that's a great place for short treks to go. So that's my petition to CBS is that make short treks about Star Trek Picard, but focus on like Hugh and Seven of Nine and maybe Elnor,
Yeah, they could do that. They might do that. They have no plans currently, but
as far as you know.
as far as I know, but they've got a lot of stuff on their plate. So I don't even know when we're getting another batch of short treks. It might be like well after, like 2020, or maybe
Well,
at the earliest I would probably think is like fall of 2020.
I
And
would love it if there were some
and we
Picard
already have,
related
yeah, we
short
already
treks.
had one, Children of Mars, that was related to it.
Right.
So
But so it could be reversed. We'll do like, maybe there's like, what, 4 or 5 a season? How many short treks did we get this season, or this
6.
bundle? Oh, we got 6. So like, do 5 for Picard and 1 for Discovery season 3, and then it's the same as like, it's kind of leading into the next show. And then after Discovery season 3 ends, do another, like, leading into season 2 of Picard, and a few for Discovery too. While we're at it, I think I've said everything I have to say about the episode. But I just want to say on a personal note, like, just Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, and Patrick Stewart together on screen. It was so much, like, so much emotion. I said it on my little Twitter thing, but dude, I was crying from just like anything, like the way Jonathan Frakes would like move would make me trigger me and make me start crying, because I was like so happy to it was like joyful tears to just see him being Riker again. And
I
he
don't
said
like
on the
I don't like how he says,
he's
"Oh man," and I don't like how he says, "What's that other thing? Ass deep in Romulans? Ass deep?
well, Picard says that.
It should be
I
neck
mean,
deep, not ass deep. Neck deep." But they say ass
that's
deep, and
funny.
I'm like, that
You're
don't
so
sound right coming out of you, Riker.
It sounds right from like later Riker, like First Contact Riker. It feels right to me. But regardless, I know what you're saying.
Ass
But
deep.
regardless, overall, I think I think over Picard says like let's try to not be perfect but be good, and I think Picard is selling it in this.
Yeah.
They're being really good. And the other thing that was a takeaway from the scenes with Jonathan Frakes is just like he says Data is in her DNA, and I was just so moved by that because Data is in my DNA. Like I totally can relate to that. As a kid, like I really loved Data, and I think Data helped me like navigate. I definitely was an awkward kid, and I can say that Data is in my DNA. He helped me like figure out the android in me, if you will.
Yeah.
So
I,
cheers to that.
I was a pretty awkward kid too, man. When I would tell
You seem
people
so cool now.
when I would tell people I like Star Trek, they would immediately respond with, "What is wrong with you?
I got the same thing.
Like,
Wow.
are you okay? Like, do you need help? Do you need to see a doctor because you are?"
That
And
was
they
the same
and they used
reaction. Wow.
they used to use an R word that I won't say, but that was the word of the day back then, right?
That same year. Why was Star Trek so what was it about Star Trek that was so offensive? Like that like we it's like
Because
if we were
it was something that people watched at a glance and couldn't wrap their mind around or attempt to understand the nuance of what was going on, and they said, "Oh, well, this is stupid," and that was it. That was the basic gist of it. Like they just looked at it for a second.
Well, isn't that something to feel hopeful about that's virtually gone for the generation growing up today. I think Star Trek is more popular. Love it or hate it, it's flipped around where I don't think people get ridiculed as much
Yeah,
as we
smart
did
kids
for
watch
liking
Star
Star,
Trek. That I've noticed
which
that.
means that there's
I,
more
I've
smart kids on the
I've
planet,
noticed
which is great.
I've noticed that most people who say the bad stuff, like about people who like it, like nerd and all that shit, like bullies, basically, that they tend to be like really kind of stupid. And I noticed the people that I went to school with, who I never not like actual friends, but the really intelligent kids, they all liked Star Trek, but they knew to keep it to themselves, except for on Halloween when they'd come with the costume, and I would see them like dressed up in the TNG uniform. I'd be like, "Oh, Andrea, you like Star Trek?" She's like, "Get away from me, you creep." I'm like, "But I like Star Trek too." Get away from me or I will pepper spray you in the eyeballs. They all had pepper spray when we were kids. I'm just joking. But like even when I reached out like to people who other kids, they're like, "No, you're weird." I was a weird child.
So was I didn't quite get threatened with pepper spray. I'm sorry you lived
No,
in
no,
that
no,
kind
no,
of
no,
weird
no, no,
environment.
no. That was a
Oh,
joke.
okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I was like,
She's
wow, that's a scary. Where'd you grow up? Like, definitely not on Nepenthe. But there's all kinds of things we didn't talk about, like the captain friend that she text messages with Kestra. Kestra's a great character. I think we can devote a whole episode just to talking about her. But I guess I want to keep this episode at an hour. So like maybe do you think it's safe? Do you have any last words to say? Should we give our rating?
rest in peace, Star Trek.
I know. Oh, no, Hugh.
No, no,
Just
no. I mean
Hugh.
the franchise. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm just kidding.
You're such a you're such a drama. There's so much drama on the
Oh yeah, that
Serena.
was dumb.
No,
Picard
I
talking
loved
about
it.
there's so much
I loved
drama.
it.
You
I
know,
loved it because it's true. That's what was good about that. What I liked
Picard's
about
gonna be
that.
like,
That
"Oh no,
is
he didn't." Like, come on now.
to me what's good about that is that has been one of the complaints about Star Trek Picard is that like all the melodrama, and I love when a show acknowledges like in a fun way that
Oh yeah,
yes there is melodrama, and I
yeah,
felt like that's what it was doing there. But I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But
yeah.
I'll go first as is customary, and I had a lot of problems with this episode on an emotional level, but as far as I have to side with Sean on this one. If I don't know if you heard his little raw reaction, but structurally, and I definitely there's things to pick at. It's not a perfect episode, but structurally, story wise, like just like hitting the right notes of sentimentality, if you will. Everything just like really worked for me on all engines were firing at full, so I give it a 10. And so I think so far season 1 holds its ratings of all 10s for me so far. So now you have to give us the real rating, PJ. Like what since I'm a crazy person. So what's your rating?
Let me just explain that parts of this episode are really good, and it's really nice to see Riker and Troy and see what happened in their life. The added drama about the dead son didn't care for. And then you have all the stuff on the Borg cube, which is just so useless and infuriating to watch. Because you got Elnor running. I know, like, he's there. He had to be there for reasons because he had to fend off the guards. But, you have these Romulan guards walking around with disruptors and stuff. And he could just. They don't fill in the blank between what happened uh, in the last episode and where it picks up here. It's just Hugh getting interrogated. So all the Borg stuff is very poorly put together and thought out, as far as I'm concerned. But then you get the nice little heartwarming stuff on Nepenthe. So I would give this a 6 because
Oh, come on. Can you give it a 7?
oh
Come on.
hell
Does
no,
Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis not deserve? Come on.
no.
Marina Sirtis was on fire. Would you consider giving it a 7, laddie? Would you raise it to a 7? If you were a little bit drunk tonight, would you have given it to? Would your heart have softened?
You just want
Would you
to
have
you
given
just
it
want to
to?
you just want to up your average per episode on
I
your show.
definitely want to up the average on this. I'm very like passionate about this episode. 6.5. Can we get a 6.5 on your?
See
Can you
that
give a 6.5 for the twirling mustache going away with Commodore O this time?
6.4. That's as high as I'll go. God
All
damn it!
right.
You squeezed it out of me.
Awesome. No one can accuse you of being stubborn.
Like
That
like
is
rate
good.
like ratings actually mean anything at all,
No,
right?
they're in the moment. We just like them on Starfleet, but it's a
Yeah.
fun way to kind of end. You're absolutely right. They
And
don't
that's
really
how
need to
that's
be.
how people who listen to this stuff should consider anybody's opinion as just like, you know, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not a hater. I'm not a lover. I don't think I'll like the show when it's all said and done because I'm
I'm a
not I'm not
joker.
I'm not feeling the
I'm a
vibe.
smoker. I'm a midnight
You're
toker.
gonna get
Just
copyright.
like Raffi on La Serena.
Okay. You avoided the copyright strike by making it your own.
I did. Thank you. Uh, wait, you can't sing things anymore?
You can't you can't do it for too long. You can get flagged.
Oh. What about covers? Like when people do covers, that's
I
not
don't know how
allowed
that
anymore?
works.
Like a guitar cover?
Let's say if you're doing like a big show on YouTube or something, and you're being monetized and whatnot, and then somebody starts singing like
Oh, this
Space
channel's not
Space
monetized.
Oddity
That
by David Bowie, and they sing so much of it. I mean, the analytics can pick up the words, and they go over it, and so
but then when they
somebody
do
may determine that that's not appropriate, and it might be left alone. So I think under fair use,
fortunately
if you're covering a song, it's fair use.
okay, fortunately I'm such a bad singer that I will never sing on key, so I get what you're saying. Okay, cool.
It's just a word thing.
Interesting. Very
It's
it's the word. It's all
it's
about the words, baby.
it's all about the words, Raffy.
David Bowie is the Black Star.
Make it show number one.
Any anyways, it was so much fun talking to you. You were totally delightful as always. Uh I like really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me.
They say time is the fire in which we burn.
That's really good. I'd like to see time as more of a companion along the journey with you. And on that note, audience, it's been fun. It's been real. Head over to Boatrek, Boatrek on YouTube. Follow. What's your YouTube? Is it Boatrek also, right? Your Twitter is also Boatrek, right?
Boatrek 1.
Oh, Boatrek 1. Sorry. Awesome. I just start typing Boatrek and it finishes it for me. But follow PJ on Twitter. Do you have anything to promote?
No.
Do you want to give any shout outs?
Um. No. But thank you
Right.
for having me on. I really, really had a good time.
Awesome. Awesome. Me too. Audience, the only thing I have to promote is go check out our latest episode of Drunk Space Nine. It's probably our drunkest episode in a while. PJ's been on the show, so he knows Drunk Space Nine. And then check out Starfleet Boy and all the things that we're doing here. And then also check out Asking Linda's, which is a podcast that's fun and that you might enjoy. All right. On that note, live long and prosper. Jolon True, and we'll see you next time.